This is News 25 with Deanna O'Donnell and Unette Gentry. News 25, local news you can count on. News is brought to you by J.K. Nelson Law. Call 727-9900 today for your free consultation. If you need a lawyer, you need Nelson.
Thanks for tuning in to News 25. I'm Deanna O'Donnell.
And I'm Unette Gentry. It's Tuesday, July 28th.
Well, Governor Steve Sisolak has announced the end of the phased approach to reopening Nevada. Instead, the state will focus on individual companies, businesses, and organizations who are failing to uphold COVID-19 health and safety guidelines. The governor explained the changes during a news conference Monday.
2 weeks ago, we established the elevated risk transmission criteria for counties looking at 3 key statistics. Based on our 2-week review of the data, the list has shrunk to 4 counties: Clark, Elko, Nye, and Washoe. At this time, those 4 counties will stay with these mitigation measures for the next week. I want to reemphasize that this is for the next week as we address our long-term strategy moving forward. Over this next week, the Nevada Health Response Team is working to finalize a long-term mitigation strategy for the state of Nevada. I'll be rolling that out for you next Monday. I believe this plan will help us to achieve 2 important goals. Number 1, with this new plan, no business, local government, or individual should be surprised by future actions, as the trends, good and bad, will be announced regularly and the resulting actions will be clear. Number 2, it invests all of us in this fight together. Those who want to keep our restaurants, gyms, and other activities open can do their part to make this happen. Those that don't will be the ones responsible for further restrictions that are put in place. We are looking to adjust our current criteria so that it more closely follows overall trends, minimizes the week-to-week or day-to-day fluctuation for counties, and better demonstrates which counties are getting progressively better or worse, and therefore which should be tightened up or loosened mitigation efforts. No more phases. In an effort to create more predictability as a state, we want to move away from phases. Like I've mentioned, we've learned a lot about this virus in the last 5 months. And while phases made sense at the time, we've got to be flexible and responsive to what we are seeing now. This new approach will set Nevada up for the long term. This is our new normal. To put it bluntly, the time for education is over. Businesses, Nevadans, and visitors should all be familiar with the expectations of reduced indoor capacity, required face coverings, and social distancing. We are close to 5 months in. No more excuses. If people aren't following the rules to keep us safe, there needs to be consequences. I believe that most of our businesses and communities have made great efforts to be as safe as they can, and targeting problematic areas will help protect the good actors. Additionally, I will be signing a new directive before July 31st, which will extend the current restrictions and provisions that are currently in place. And finally, I formed an advisory group, which will be led by Caleb Cage, our statewide COVID-19 response director. This group, made up of agency directors in charge of enforcement, public health, and more, along with local government and hospital representatives, will be responsible for reviewing the criteria, data, and progress each week.
And in Nye County news, the sheriff's office has arrested 4 people in connection with a shooting Sunday night on Marney Court.
On July 26th at approximately 11:30 p.m., Nye County deputies received a call of a shooting in the area of Marney Court. Initial reports indicated 1 person was shot and wounded during an attempted home invasion, but the investigation revealed the victim had a disagreement with his roommate and several of the roommate's friends about smoking cigarettes inside the residence. The sheriff's office says the suspects were identified as 21-year-old Robert Marcino, 21-year-old Juan Burgos, 22-year-old Justin Gensler, and 22-year-old Nathan Beaulieu. The victim reported that he had locked the suspects out of the residence after they left through the garage. Shortly after, the victim said he could hear and see the suspects going through his toolbox and taking tools through a window in his room next to the garage. The victim told deputies he got his gun and went into the garage to see what was going on. He says one of the suspects pointed 2 guns at his face. The victim then fired 2 shots, striking a 5th person named Allen. The suspects then fled the residence in 2 separate vehicles. The wounded man ended up at Desert View Hospital for treatment. Robert Marcino was arrested for grand larceny over $3,000 and conspiracy to commit grand larceny. Juan Burgos, Justin Gensler, and Nathan Beaulieu were arrested for conspiracy to commit grand larceny. The sheriff's office says this is an ongoing investigation.
Well, Pahrump Valley Winery will continue to operate without a valid liquor license until at least August 18th. The Nye County Licensing and Liquor Board met in a special session today for a show cause hearing regarding the future of the winery's license. But attorneys for the winery made a last-minute request to have that hearing continued until August 18th's regular meeting.
I would like to make a motion based upon a letter from the Wright Law Group, which is the attorney for the winery, and an agreement from the DA's office to continue this show cause hearing until the second meeting in August, which will be the 18th of August, noting that the suspension remains in place.
I have a motion and a second. We have the sheriff who's joined us now, and we have a motion to continue that's been requested by the applicant. So of course we would want them to know that they are still in suspension, and we will have our show cause hearing on the 18th, and they will be duly noticed.
They want to continue it. This suspension stays in place for another month. If they're good with that, I don't really care.
I guess it's at the pleasure of the board. I don't know why we're still giving more time. I don't know how much more time.
Actually, we're not giving any time. They don't have a license. They can't serve liquor. They're in suspension.
But now we're going to have to address this at a later date.
No one from Pahrump Valley Winery showed up for today's scheduled hearing. The county suspended the winery's conditional liquor license earlier this month after the owners failed to meet all application requirements. News 25 will return right after this break.
You're watching News 25, brought to you by Mountain West Lawyer, Injury Attorneys, 727-9500. News 25, local news you can count on.
Welcome back to News 25. Well, investors are excited about a company working on a coronavirus vaccine. Sports betting company DraftKings sees its stock prices fall, but orders for cars and trucks shot up 86% in June. Angela Miles has all that and more in today's financial news.
Topping our news, Moderna is getting a shot of enthusiasm from investors. That stock traded above $80 during Monday's session. The company received word that it will receive $472 million in additional funding from the government in its quest to create a coronavirus vaccine. This week, Moderna started human testings on 30,000 volunteers who will be tracked by scientists. Moderna hopes to have 500 million doses of its COVID-19 vaccine by early 2021. Sports betting company DraftKings struck out on Monday. The stock fell after some Major League Baseball games were postponed due to a coronavirus outbreak among players on the Miami Marlins team. Checking the economy, orders for durable goods came in with a strong 7.3% gain in June. Orders for new cars and trucks jumped 86% as aircraft orders plunged 462%.
Thanks, Angela. Well, Nye County is recording 309 confirmed cases of COVID-19 positives this morning, with 3 new cases here in Pahrump and 1 in Beatty. Chemisys Laboratory through Serenity Health has partnered with Nye County and the Nye County Sheriff's Office to provide a drive-up COVID-19 testing for Nye County and our surrounding communities. Testing in Pahrump is now from 7 to 9 p.m. on Monday night, 7 a.m. till 9 a.m. on Wednesday and Friday. No pre-registration is required. You just show up with your ID and your insurance card if you have insurance. If you don't have insurance, you can also get tested. The testing location is at Serenity Health at 2280 East Calvada Boulevard, number 301 here in Pahrump. You line up at the Duck Pond in the Walt Williams Drive. You can also get tested for COVID-19 and antibody tests by giving Serenity Health a phone call, and that is for appointments only. You can call them at 234-5398. You can also get tested in Tonopah. They have two different numbers for that, 775-302-5800 or 775-482-9898. You can find all that information out on our Local Prompt Facebook page as well. Well, on June 21st at 8 a.m., the Nye County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call from a Beatty man who reported being kidnapped at gunpoint by three males who allegedly took him out to the desert to beat him unconscious.
One of the men was identified as Juan Gonzalez. The victim stated that the night before, Gonzalez allegedly forced him into a vehicle and ordered him to drive to a location where the victim was to sell his car to pay Gonzalez money that he owed him. Gonzalez, with the aid of two other men identified as Moises Gonzalez and Roosevelt Jones Jr., then allegedly drove the victim at gunpoint out to the desert and assaulted him. A search warrant was obtained and executed at Gonzalez's residence, where officers located a silver revolver consistent with the description the victim provided. Gonzalez was placed into custody and booked into the Nye County Detention Center on charges of kidnapping in the first degree, robbery, battery, and possession of a firearm while prohibited to do so.
In other local news, on June 23rd, Nye County Sheriff's Office deputies were dispatched to a possible domestic incident in progress.
The homeowner stated that a man by the name of Ininga Sutton had been drinking at the home and an argument broke out. Sutton got into his vehicle and while leaving, hit a trailer parked on the side of the house, knocking the trailer into his fence and breaking part of it. Dispatch then advised the officer that a vehicle matching the description of Sutton's had just hit a tree. After the officer made contact with the driver, identified as Sutton, a medical call was placed to tend to his injuries. The officer could smell an intoxicant on Sutton and he appeared to be swaying back and forth while slurring his words. After medical treatment, Sutton allegedly refused to perform a field sobriety test. Once the officer transported Sutton to detention, he was given a breath test and it was detected that he was over the legal limit at the time of the test. Sutton was arrested and charged with DUI, operating a vehicle with expired registration, driving without a license, and not stopping at an accident.
And don't grab that remote. When we return, we'll tell you about the latest on an agreement with the Board of County Commissioners regarding area development.
You're watching News 25, the most recognized and farthest-reaching local news in Nye County. News 25, local news you can count on.
Welcome back to News 25. At the July 21st Board of County Commissioners meeting, developer Ken Murphy, owner of Shadow Mountain Construction, reappeared to present a modified version of a development agreement previously presented to the board in April.
The original agreement presented contained 67 homes to be built on 16 acres of land. The revised agreement now represents what the board had told Murphy they would like to see. The proposal would build 32 homes on the 16 acres, ranging in size from 2,000 to 3,000 square feet, and each home would be on half-acre lots. The subdivision, called North Canyon Homes, is located on land east Simpkins Road, just west of Simpkins Park. Originally, Murphy's concept was to build more but smaller homes located on smaller lots. Murphy thought that would fill the need for first-time homebuyers or those wishing to downsize both their home and yard. More homes mean more water usage, a concern voiced by Commissioner Deborah Strickland, the only board member that admitted to being anti-subdivision. Strickland stated that this would tax an already stressed water situation. Murphy invests both time and money into this development agreement, and it was noted because he had decided to go with the larger lots, he was not required to have such an agreement. Without a development agreement, Murphy would not have had to pay impact fees or adhere to specific requirements, but the agreement, the county can set requirements and is entitled to impact fees to help fund services provided by the county that the new residents will need. The commissioners approved the development agreement with the stipulation that the lots be half-acre size and that there be no more than 32 homes in the new subdivision. The motion passed 4-1, with Strickland being the only nay vote.
Thanks so much, Missy. Well, imagine for 1 second you're outside enjoying your front yard, then the next you're on the ground fighting for life. Hear how an off-duty nurse ended up in the right place at the right time to save a man from a sudden heart attack. Erica Foreman has more.
I know he was gone. I could tell he was. There was no response at all.
50-year-old John Jostin and his wife Linda were doing yard work when John suddenly collapsed from a heart attack.
I was, fatigued, but nothing to indicate, that the switch was going to turn off.
As Linda frantically shouted for help, Chelsea Kelly, a cardiac nurse, was driving by.
I pulled over to the side. I ran out. I said, I'm a nurse. What happened? I felt for her pulse. I didn't feel a pulse, so I immediately started compressions.
I know he was already gone. And when she got there, it was totally different because she said all of a sudden she could see him breathing again.
Paramedics took John to the emergency department. Soon after, he was life-flighted to Cleveland Clinic.
His heart didn't so much stop, but it went into an irregular, chaotic electrical rhythm that caused it not to be able to pump.
John underwent an 8-hour triple bypass that might have never happened if it weren't for Chelsea.
Having someone there to administer CPR, I think, is the real pivotal moment that kept all the dominoes from falling in the wrong direction.
You look so good.
I feel kind of good.
After 13 days in the hospital, Chelsea visited John.
I feel like it was like a miracle that I was there, and it was meant to be. Not only did I make a huge impact on their life, they made an impact on my life too.
There's just no way of thanking her. I mean, he wouldn't be here.
There's no words to express the feeling or the gratitude. I mean, she literally gave me my life.
At Cleveland Clinic, I'm Erica Foreman.
News 25 Weather Cam is brought to you by Lerner and Rowe Injury Attorney's Office in Pahrump. In a wreck, need a check? Call 702-877-1500.
All right, time to take a look outside at our current weather conditions. Beautiful day today, but it topped out at 102 by noon here in Pahrump. Any guesses what our current high is? We'll tell you right after this break.
News 25 weather is brought to you by Dairy Council of Nevada. The splash of cream in your coffee, the dollop of sour cream on your burrito, the melted toasty cheese on your pizza. Undeniably delicious, undeniably dairy. Enjoy what's real.
Hello and welcome back to News 25. I'm Michael Donahue with today's weather. In Las Vegas, we had a high of 109 degrees, a low of 80 degrees. Death Valley, 117, a low of 84. 107, a low of 70 in Amargosa. 103, 67 in Beatty. 94, a low of 59 in Goldfield. 92, 58 in Tonopah. 93, 56 in Carson City. 97, a low of 51 degrees in Fallon. And 96, a low of 63 finally up in Fernley. Now today in Pahrump, we saw sunny skies. Our high today was 106 degrees. Winds out of the southwest up to 11 miles per hour, 8% humidity, and 5:48 this morning for the sunrise. Now tonight, clear skies. Your low is going to be 75 degrees. It's 105 outside currently with 7-mile-per-hour winds out of the east-southeast. Humidity at 10%, and our sunset at 7:52 tonight. Now looking ahead to that 7 days, still expecting mainly sunny skies throughout the week, although how winds have shifted just slightly, now between 12 to 14 miles per hour expected throughout the week. Now for our temperatures, they're starting to level off just a little bit. We're going to be seeing highs anywhere between 106 to 108 degrees from Wednesday to Monday, and then dropping down to a high of 104 by next Tuesday. Now our overnights are doing pretty much the same thing. They're starting to level off. We're pretty much just going to be seeing those anywhere around 74 to 78 degrees for majority of the week. So now with that, we're going to throw it back to the desk with you, Net.
Thanks so much, Michael.
Yes.
Missy's over there on the side saying it's a dry heat, though, so it's really hot. You want to talk about hydration?
Yes, definitely. Even though on Tuesday on our calendar, we're only topping out at about 108, but it will feel hotter, as Missy says. It's a dry heat, and so we need to stay hydrated. Make sure that you're drinking plenty of water, and if you're feeling winded or if you're feeling fatigued, that might be a possible heat stroke setting on. So again, stay inside, please stay cool and hydrated, and bring inside any plants and pets in the warmest times of day.
Make sure you bring your horses inside. It's always a good idea.
If possible, bring your pets inside.
All right. And so if you're listening on the radio and you want to watch our news, you can, of course, get hooked up to free local TV by just getting a digital antenna and hooking it up to your off-air antenna on your television set. Even if you have satellite, you can watch KPVM-TV. Of course, you can see us on our local Pahrump Facebook page, on YouTube, on Facebook. We stream our news, and of course, breaking news stories put on our Facebook daily. That'll wrap up this edition of News 25. I'm Deanna O'Donnell.
And I'm Unat Gentry. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next newscast. Bye-bye. Good night.